Remember this excellent book you read that one time? And my brain's like, yes, I do remember that excellent book I read that one time, and now that's all I can think about. Hello, my friends. Welcome back to Ink and Fig. My name is Alex, and today we are going over my May reading wrap-up. I cannot believe that the month is already over. It's been such a busy month. Oh my gosh. This has been my first full month on YouTube, or almost full month. I think I got started posting about a week in, and that's been incredible. And I did a lot of reading in that time. Now, I don't read a lot. That's sort of part of my shtick. I'm a very slow reader, and I just have a very distracted kind of personality. So I don't get as much reading done as a lot of folks here on YouTube. A lot of people here are putting out somewhere between 5 and 12 books every month, and absolute kudos to them. I managed to do the same thing for myself last month in April, but that is super not sustainable for my everyday life. I kind of had to stop going to my extracurricular activities. I had to stop going to the gym. I was ordering an insane amount of food rather than cooking. So reading a lot is not my bag. Never has been. So I like to stick with short lists of books. So this is what my stack looks like for May. Looked like for May. There was, imagine if you will, one more book sitting on top of this. That would be the audiobook that I read virtually on Libby. So let's go through it. So as you saw in my June TBR, I do a TBR game every month called Lunar TBR. I did not get that filmed for May, so you wouldn't have seen that, but I do have all of my cards handy, so I can show you what it is that I pulled. I think I'm going to start with this because I didn't actually finish this. I am currently, as you can see, about halfway through, and this book was for The King of Swords. The King of Swords asks me to read a book by a male author of color. So I chose Norwegian Wood by Haruki Murakami because I've been trying to read this book for a very long time, and I'm actually succeeding. I'm not giving up. Again, as I said, I'm about halfway through, and I'm going to be just sort of pushing through until this is done. I think it'll take me another 2 or 3 more days. It's just my brain has been distracted by, of all things, Six of Crows lately, which I haven't read since November, but my brain is just like, remember this excellent book you read that one time? And my brain's like, yes, I do remember that excellent book I read that one time, and now that's all I can think about. So I've been having some trouble reading, so this book has slowed down, but I'm still working my way through it. So far, so good. My thoughts are that it's very sort of existentialist, as his work kind of tends to be. There's a lot of, I don't necessarily want to say womanizing, but kind of using women as a plot device or as a life device, I guess, as a male character. Amazing writing style, though. I love his writing style. I think it's really great. And I am looking forward to continuing to read more of his stuff because honestly, I think it's brilliant. Although, can anybody else confirm this for me? A couple of years ago, I read The Colorless Tsukuru Tazaki and His Years of Pilgrimage, also by Murakami, and I feel like these two are very similar stories. Maybe I'm off base, maybe I'm on base, I don't know. Let me know what you think down in the comments. I would love to hear your thoughts. I had 4 books on my list for May, and I've got the other 3 cards here. So the first one I finished was The Four of Swords, which asked me to read a short book. So I found a 3-hour audiobook on Libby, which is the app that my local library uses to provide its patrons, i.e. me, with ebooks and audiobooks and all that kind of fun stuff. So for that, I don't have a book to show you, but I will hopefully figure out how to put one here on the screen for you so you can look at the cover while I'm talking. I read All Systems Red by Martha Wells. This was such a cool book. I've heard other booktubers talk about this in passing, which was how I had heard about it in the first place. And I just thought that it was a really interesting concept, to have this self-aware, and now I mean self-aware AI is nothing new to the grand scheme of science fiction, but to have it sort of working through its self-awareness as it comes more into it, and ultimately it being self-aware because it wants to be a moral thing, that I think is new and quite interesting to chew on while you're reading this book. And even if you're just sort of passively reading the book and not really going that far into like the analysis of it, like Murderbot's just funny. Like he's a very cool character. I ascribe male pronouns. I don't know if we're supposed to ascribe male pronouns to Murderbot, but it was read by a man. Kevin R. Free, I believe his name was. And so just because of that, I ascribe male pronouns to Murderbot, although I don't think that he gave himself pronouns. And the pronouns that the ship seemed to use was it. And I don't necessarily like those pronouns myself when we're talking about any kind of sentient anything. And I would consider an AI to be living. Which is sort of the main thrust of the book there anyway, is does Murderbot live? And if so, you know, what is his experience like? I thought it was a really good book. I was elated to find out that there's a whole series of Murderbot books. So I'm going to be going and working my way through that piecemeal as I get short book prompts, which I think is going to come in handy for me in August when I do the second solstice for the Aurelium Readathon, and I'm gonna need to read 8 more books because I have tied myself into this necromancer path for whatever reason, and I think I'm gonna need some more quick reads that I can like shove in places so that I can actually make another 8 books happen. All of those books are now on my TBR, and I'm hopefully going to be working my way through them shortly. And if you're looking for a star rating for that book, I rated it a solid 4 out of 5 stars. I rated it 4 because I think that it could have been expounded upon much more. That said, I thought the pacing was really good. I think that was one of my main issues with Binti by Nnedi Okorafor that I read last year, was that it was short and it was jam-packed with stuff, but the pacing was so fast that I like felt out of breath by the time I finished the book. And I would have loved for it to be maybe like even another 40 pages just to like slow down that pacing a little bit. Again, that was a fantastic book. And I think I rated it 4 stars for exactly the same reason. And this one, I think the pacing was also quite fast. I would love to have seen it go a little bit longer. So the second book that I finished this month was for the prompt Queen of Swords. Queen of Swords asked me to read a 5-star prediction, and I absolutely nailed it. I read for this one The Memory Librarian by Janelle Monáe. This is Monáe's debut novel, based on, from what I understand, a collection of stories that she's been sort of developing through her music. And she worked together with a bunch of other authors. She collaborated with these authors on this book: Alaya Dawn Johnson, Danny Lore, Eve L. Ewing, Yohanka Delgado, and Cherie Renee Thomas. Each of these authors worked with Monáe on a single story in this book, and they put together this incredible, very broken dystopian world of a view of the world wherein memories are criminalized in a way. Being anything other than a conforming individual who absolutely toes the line, you are considered a dirty computer, and dirty computers have to be cleaned. And that's sort of the whole concept of this book. We follow a number of characters, many of whom are queer, and therefore they are dirty computers, and it's their stories of resistance and pushing back against this horrifyingly prescriptive government. And it's just a gorgeous, gorgeous collection of emotion and struggle and just the beauty that can come out of that. So the first story in this book is obviously The Memory Librarian. This follows, I think the name is pronounced Sesset. I should know this. I don't. So it follows Sesset on her journey to forge a romantic connection with someone. So she forms a connection with Alethea, who is a trans Black woman living in this society. She works creating skin creams. She's a chemist. And the two of them form a relationship, and things, as they would in a society like this, get twisted and warped, and decisions are made. And it's a very compelling read. That one, I believe, was the longest story in here, clocking in at about 80 pages, and it was just like gripping the whole way through. It was so good. The second story is called Nevermind. This follows a pair of characters. It follows a pair of characters most closely, although there's an entire community, a commune, in fact, in this story. There's Jane, who has escaped from a cleansing facility, and Near, who is a non-binary engineer from their job title, from which they got their name. And these two have to fight against the government that comes to destroy their commune and take Jane away. The third story, Time Box, follows Raven and Aquila, a pair of girlfriends who have just moved into their first apartment together and find that they have a pantry that fucks with time. The fourth story, Save Changes, follows Amber and Larry, a pair of sisters whose mother has been returned to them from a cleansing facility, and she is a deeply broken person. These girls go one night to a party, and in this world, parties are kind of risky. And that's all I'll say about that. Final story is Time Box Altered, which follows 4 children as they build another sort of time-fucky space for themselves. And it ends up showing them something very interesting, which is possibly the worst cliffhanger to leave that story on, because it's way better than how I made it sound, but like still. So it just everything about the Memory Librarian is gripping and beautiful, and I honestly loved every moment of this book. So our last prompt is one that you will also have seen from my June TBR. This one is the Queen of Wands. This card asks me to read a book that is very popular on Instagram right now, and obviously I could think of nothing more popular than It Ends With Us by Colleen Hoover. We have been following me on the vlogs going through my journey with this book, and I am finally ready to summarize my thoughts. I think my issues and my appreciation of this book can be summed up by something that Hoover mentions in the notes at the end. It is worth stating, for those that have not read the book, that the note from the author at the end does warn you that there are spoilers in this note, so venture forth with caution if you want to read the note first. Essentially what she says is that she writes for pleasure and entertainment only, and does not seek to inform or persuade her readers in any way. Therefore, It Ends With Us is her first big sort of serious piece. And where that comes into my concerns about the book is that it really shows that it's her first foray into this kind of writing, wherein the writing style I found, especially in the first half, quite childish and unbefitting of the gravity of the plot of this book. Because the whole, I must emphasize that I think the point of this book is extremely important, and that this was definitely a story worth telling, because it really framed in an accessible way what it's like to be in an abusive relationship, and to come from a home that dealt with an abusive relationship. Like, the importance and the gravity of that should not be understated. However, the writing style is not what I would have hoped for a book like this. It definitely came a little bit more into, or the writing style became a little bit more appropriate in the second half, where we were dealing with, for lack of a better phrase, we dealt with shit hitting the fan in the second half of the book. And the writing style became a little bit more appropriate at that time, because it really fell into And I'm saying this from a writer's perspective because I am also a writer. I have a degree in creative writing. She finally got to what she wanted to say. The first half of the book was just build up. It was like setting the tone, setting the setting, and she was just kind of like faffing around laying out the groundwork, right? As books tend to do, but it's sort of usually done with a little bit more finesse. When she finally got to the part where she was telling the story that she set about to tell, it started to click. I still think that it was maybe a little bit leaning towards that fluffy kind of language, but it was a lot more tone appropriate, and it definitely got across what she was trying to say with this book. So ultimately, I am going to give this, I think I landed on 3.5 stars for this, and I did pull off a 1.5 stars because of the writing style and because of the beginning and because of all of those sort of aforementioned issues that I have with it. But I think that by the end of the book, she kind of saved it, pulled it together, and came up with something that really did land, in my opinion. I think the point of the book really touched down where she wanted it to. And that was everything that I read in May. Thank you so much for joining me on this journey, for listening to me rambling about these books throughout this whole month on my vlogs. I greatly appreciate it. I am going to, I don't know where I threw it. Here we go. I'm going to continue pushing through Norwegian Wood. We're going to get this done. You will see this in my June wrap-up. Or else. That is my promise and my threat to myself. We're gonna get it done. So once again, thank you so much for watching. You can follow me on all of my social media at Ink and Fig. And please leave me a like, a comment if you're feeling like it, and subscribe if you haven't yet, because we're getting out content twice a week is what it's looking like right now. I can't believe that I'm actually making this happen. This is very exciting. So I've got plenty already in the hopper to show you if you haven't seen it yet, and there is plenty still to come. So please definitely hit that subscribe button and join me for wherever we go next on this wild journey that we're going on. I think that is it for today. I will see you in the next one. Bye!